For a long time, Europe has been fighting a kind of three-headed dragon that we're starting to contend with.
Yeah.
And there are three heads to that dragon. One head, of course, is the far right. That's the most obvious sort,
Right.
which has its roots in Hitlerian anti-Semitism.
Right.
That's the anti-Semitism of, the resurgent fascists and the populists,
Yep.
who oftentimes, and this is confusing for people, love Israel and demonize Muslims. But the reasons they love Israel are for the wrong reasons. They see it as a kind of anti-Muslim Sparta in the Middle East, overlooking the fact that 20% of Israelis are Muslims themselves, are Arabs themselves. And also, they like Israel because it solves the problem of the Jews in their midst. You have Richard Spencer advocating for Zionism because it removes the Jews from his population in America that should be white and clean and removes them to Israel.
Right.
The second head of that dragon, of course, is radical Islam. And Islamists are responsible for a lot of the physically violent attacks that are taking place on the streets of places like Paris. The third head of the dragon is the far left. And that looks a lot like the Labour Party right now in England. The threat from the far left is less physically violent, but it is very, very insidious because it is a way of smuggling itself into the mainstream, because it often cloaks itself in the language of social justice, of progressivism, of anti-racism, of standing up for the underdog, or of just criticizing Israel. And that's a real problem.
Do we have any risk here of seeing any of the heads of the three-headed beast
Yes.
land in America and land in our midst?
So certainly we have the far right. That's obvious.
Right.
That's what happened in Pittsburgh. That's what happened in Poway. We don't have a huge influx of refugees from lands where anti-Semitism is the norm. Look where we're located. We just don't, despite what Donald Trump says about who's coming over the border. But there are there are incidents. I don't even want to say tiny. There was a young, this is the most tragic case where someone who has been themselves a victim becomes a victimizer. A 20-year-old refugee from Dara, Syria, one of the worst places there, tried to bomb a church in Pittsburgh a few months ago and was arrested by the FBI.
Right.
So, there is some reason to be at least very aware of that. And then the third is this anti-Semitism from the far left, which treats Israel as a uniquely diabolical state and suggests that only one nation state doesn't have the right to exist, and that is the Jewish one, which puts all Jews around the world in grave threat, not least the largest Jewish community on earth, which is in Israel. And yes, we see that, unfortunately, in some ways seeping into the mainstream of the Democratic Party.